ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनाम् उपमस्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पद आनशृण्वन् ओदिभिश्रीतसादनं महागणपतये नमः। ॐ श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तः पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीदयानन्दसद्गुरुं। यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे सद्गुरुं चन्द्रशेखरम्. So we will begin the second sutra. So the adhikaranam is Janmatyadhikaranam, and there's only one sutra. In the first four adhikaranas is only one sutra in each adhikarana, very unique four adhikaranas, which gives the whole view of the Shastra. So this Dvitiye Brahmanah Lakshanadhikarane Sutram. So the sutra in this adhikarana talks about one of the two Lakshanas of Brahman. Lakshana, you can say in loose translation, as defining characteristics of Brahman. In the Mimamsa Shastra, there is a cardinal principle. Lakshana pramanabhyam vastu siddhihi or vastu nirnaya. If you want to establish something, you have to have, first of all, what is that? So some defining characteristics of that vastu should be there. That is the lakshana. Then you establish it through a means of knowledge, pramana. So pramana and lakshana both go hand in hand. If one is there and the other is not, then all the vastu siddhi is not possible. So lakshana pramanabhyam vastu siddhihi or vastu nirnitam bhavati. Now here, when you say lakshana pramanabhyam, it's not that critical which should say first and then the next. You can say pramana lakshanabhyam. The idea is both are necessary. The first sutra already indicated the pramana in essence. How was it indicated? That Brahma Vichara is kartavya by a jignasuhu. A jignasu who is sadhana chatushtraya sampatti, one who has the sadhana chatushtraya sampannaha. The sampatti is there. So that serves as the hetu. Sadhana chatushtaya is four, we all know, viveka, vairagya, samadhamadi and mumukshutvam. The question that could arise is, does really all the four are equally important? Because athato brahma jigyasa, the ataha, the second sabda, ataha, is in the hetu therefore. But what would really serve as a hetu for brahma jigyasa? Brahma jigyasa means brahma vicharaha kartavya. Brahma vichara has to be done. How this chadana chadushtaya sampatti becomes the hetu for brahma vichara, it was indicated in the detailed analysis that was done before, namely the iha amushmika vishayeshu vairagya. So iha amutra phala bhogeshu vairagya. A determination that whatever is sadhya, sadhya means karma sadhya, whether in this world or training to gain something in the other world, iha amutra vishayeshu phala bhogeshu, bhoga vishayas, where you want to experience either here or hereafter, you have to gain that by karma. Since karma sadhyatvat, karma palani anityani, all the karma palas are anitya. So that observation that there is nothing permanent, everything is ephemeral, but what the jigyasa is for something which is nitya. Nitya vastu alone, nitya moksha has to be nitya. It cannot be kada chitka moksha. So the vairagya among the four in the sadhana chatushtayam, among the four qualifications, one qualification really serves as the hetu for doing brahma vichara, because you are seeking something nitya, and Brahman alone is nitya iti. There is an apadata jnanam. Apada jnanam is there, so because of this you do brahma vichara. That vichara implies vichara of the Upanishad, the texts that are available. So pramana is there, but lakshana we don't know. The characteristic, defining characteristic of Brahman. So then with the help of the pramana, verifying whether the pramana reveals the lakshana that you know, then vastu siddhi. So this second adhikarana, where of the two defining lakshanas of Brahman, one is called Swarupa Lakshanam, another one is called Tatastha Lakshanam. So the Tatastha Lakshanam is what is presented in the second sutra. So very important sutra, again from the understanding of the Shastra. So we are beginning that. So Dvidhiya Adhikaranam Arachayati. So the Vaiyasika nyayamala gives the context of the sutra. Lakshanam brahmano nasti kim vasti nahi vidyate janmadehe anyanishtatvat satyadesha aprasiddhitaha. So a question is asked, in the Vaiyasika nyayamala will always present the Vishaya, then a Sandeha, a Purvapaksha and Siddhanta. So here Vishaya is the Brahma Vichara, that is, Brahman is the object of the inquiry. Then you need a definition of Brahman. So, does a definition of Brahman, Brahma Lakshanam Brahmanaha, Brahmanaha Lakshanam, Astiva Nastiva. The Purvapaksha is it does not exist, Nahi Vidyate, there is no Lakshanam. Janmadehe Anyanishtatvat, because this is Janmadyadikaranam, so Jagat, the Janma of the, that is the creation of the Jagat, etc. So creation, Janma, the cause of the universe, cause of the Jagat, there are so many contentions. The Sankhyas will say Pradhanam. The Nayayikas, Tarkikas will say Paramanus. The Yogacharaka will say Ishvaraha. The Bauddhas will say everything is Sunyam, it all from Sunyam alone. So the creation of the Jagat, Janmadehe, Anyanishtatvat. So therefore, the world cannot serve as a Lakshanam because the creation of world, etc., is attributed to other causes. Is Satyam Nanam Anantam Brahma Ityadi, that Shruti itself talks about it. That also cannot be so, because what exactly the meaning of these words in a parochial, in this usage sense, they have some meaning, but they are not really prasiddha. They are not well known in an absolute non-worldly sense. Aprasiddhitaha. It's not known. So therefore, how do we now inquire? Brahmanishtam karanatvam syat lakshma srag bhujangavat laukikanyeva satyadin akhandam lakshayantihi. Not really so. The cause of the universe resides Brahmanishtam, Jagat Karanatvam, Brahmanishtam. So it is a qualification or an indication, Lakshma. How does it serve as an indication? Srag Bhujangavat, just like a snake on a rope. Very interesting summary here. We will see the ramifications as we go along. Then words like Satyam, Laukikani eva, they are worldly, they are used in the worldly lexicon. But here you have to understand a way of understanding what those words convey, and from that way, from that, if you use that kind of approach, they do indeed indicate the indivisible Akhandam, that is partless reality, namely Akhandam Brahma. They do indicate. So that is how the Siddhanta is going to be. So what is the Shruti Vakya that generates this sutra? That would have generated, that generated for Vyasacharya, that generated this sutra. Famous mantra from the Taittiriya. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prati pratyanti abhisambhisanti, or I should say yat prayanti abhisambhisanti tat vijignyasasva tad brahma. So two vakyas, Yatova imani, from starting from that, Yat prayanti abhisambhisanti is one vakya. Tat vijignyasasva tat brahma is the second vakya. So that's two vakyas in that Taittiriya. Then Satyam Nanam Anantam Brahma. That is another one. Here Prayanti means Mriyamanani ityartha. Prayanti means which resolves, things which resolve. Jatani Mriyamanani, into which. Tatra Sruyamanam Brahma Lakshanam na ghatate va iti samshaya. So now there is a doubt. Okay, sir, you have given these two. In this regard, tatra, the doubt is the definition of Brahman, Brahma Lakshanam, heard in the Upanishad Sruyamanam, is it tenable or not tenable? Ghadateva, is it tenable? Na ghadate, not tenable. The Purvapaksha's view is it is na ghadate, it is untenable. Why so? Tatahi kim janmadikam tal lakshanam uta satyadikam. Is creation, etc. is the definition, janmadikam, yato va imani bhutani jayante, janmadikam is it the definition, or satyam jnanam anantam brahma iti is it the definition. Janmadikam uta satyadikam. You make a vikalpa. Then na adhyaha tasya jagat nishtatvena brahma sambandha abhavat. The first option is janmadikam the lakshanam. He says no, it cannot hold, because those attributes reside in the world, jagat, the birth of the jagat, the maintenance of the jagat, the resolution of the jagat. They are not attributes of Brahman, they are attributes jagat nishtatvena. They reside in the jagat. They have no connection to Brahman because Brahman is totally asangaha. Therefore have no direct connection with the Brahman. Brahma sambandha abhavat. So janmadikam cannot be the lakshanam. Can the satyam nanam anantam is the lakshanam? Dvitiyepi loka prasiddhasya satya jnanadehe svikare bhinnartatvat akhandam brahma na siddhyet aprasiddhasya tu satyadehe lakshanatvam ayuktam. In the second option, what do we have? Satyam, Nanam, Anantam. 3 words. If we accept the commonly known meaning of the word Satyam or Jnanam or Anantam, then they have different meanings. Bhinnartatvat. Since they have different meanings, how can they be defining a Akhandam Brahma? They cannot be the ones to establish Akhandam Brahma. And then these words which are not prasiddha, because each one's meaning of Satyam can be different. So attributing an aprasiddha or unknown or uncommon word or not natural word that everybody would understand. Truth makes the word Satyam, etc., makes them unfit to serve as a definition for Brahman. Therefore, tatastha lakshanam, swarupa lakshanam cha na vidyate. So the first janmadi yato va imani bhutani is considered as a tatastha lakshanam. I will define that in a minute. Nor satyam nanam anantam iti swarupa lakshanam. for Brahman exists, na vidyate. So this is the Purvapaksha. Now the answer, that is the second two lines of the Vaiyasika nyayamala. Atra uchyate, with this matter, what do we say? Yal lakshanam rupa anantar bhutam sat padartantara vyavastha hetuhu tat tatastha lakshanam. So what is that, sir? What is it? What do we say? First of all, what is the definition of tatastha lakshanam? Yat rupanandarbhutam. It is not part of the vishaya that is going to be that for which you want to inquire about. So rupa anantarbhutam sat, yet helps to padartantara vyavastha hetuhu. It helps you to distinguish from various other padarthas. It helps you to distinguish. So that is called tatastha lakshanam. So it is qualifies as a lakshanam, albeit it is not inherent in what it is defining, yet it is helpful to differentiate from other things. Rupantara or padartantara vyavastha hetuhu. It serves as a cause to differentiate from other things. Generally, a Visheshanam and Lakshanam, two words, both are the same. Lakshanam is a Visheshanam. So Visheshana Visheshanam, Lakshana Visheshanam, if you differentiate. So a Visheshanam, an adjective, Sajadhyebhyah, Anyebhyah, Yat Vyavartayati, Tat Visheshanam. From things belonging to the same class. Visheshanam, an adjective, helps to distinguish one thing from other things belonging to the same class. So like there is an Utpalam, a lily. Utpalam is a class of flowers called lily. In that class, Sajadebhyah, everything is Sajati. Anyebhyah, you want to distinguish one from the others. Because there are blue lilies, red lilies, etc., white lilies. So you say Neela Utpalam, then the word Neela, blue, is a Visheshanam. It helps to distinguish from other members belonging to the same family. That is Visheshana Visheshanam. Lakshana Visheshanam means Sarvebhyah Anyebhyah Yat Vyavartayati Tat Lakshanam. Not just only Sajadebhyah, Sarvebhyah, from everything. Sajadebhyah, Vijadebhyah, Sarvebhyah. It distinguishes this one thing from everything else. Anyebhyah, Vyavartayati, that differentiates it, that is called Lakshanam. So here, this Tatastha Lakshanam, without residing or without inhering in the Vastu itself, what you are trying to identify, it can distinguish it, it helps to distinguish it from other things. Therefore, it qualifies to be a Lakshanam, albeit it's called Tatastha Lakshanam. Janmadehe Anyanishtatvepi, the objection was the cause of Jagat is attributed to various things. Yes, that is true. But the Karanatvam of Jagat, Tat Karanatvam, Brahmani Kalpanaya Sambaddham Tatastha Lakshanam Bhavishyati. Kalpanaya. This is like saying Although Brahman is, in an absolute sense, not the cause of the Jagat. Because Jagat is Mithya. So, in the absolute sense, it's not correct. But since there is a Jagat that you perceive, and you are looking for a cause of the Jagat, you attribute that cause to the Brahman and you say, this Jagat Karanam Brahma iti. It is like saying, Yaha Bhujangaha Sa Srak itivat. This snake is a garland. What is the sentence says? What you have wrongly concluded to be a snake, Yaha Bhujangaha, the snake that it appears to you, in fact is Srak, is really a garland. So you indicate or point out, even though it is a mistake, you point out that mistake, showing that mistake, you say it is in fact this. So you automatically correct the mistake and you point to the adhishthanam, the knowledge, the absence of knowledge of the adhishthanam, which gave rise to the incorrect superimposition of the snake. So this snake is the garland. Garland is the adhisthana. That is the truth. But why are you saying this snake? Because the fellow made a mistake. He thought it is a snake. So you point out the mistake that he has made and you correct that mistake. Similarly here, Yat Jagat Karanam Tat Brahma iti, because you take the Jagat to be real, so this Jagat, the cause of this Jagat, which is that you have perceived, is in fact Brahman, and Brahman is Nirvikara. So therefore the Adhishthanam is Nirvikara, then the appearance, then the Jagat can only be an appearance. So Kalpitena Vastunaha Upalakshayitum Shakyatvat. So it can point out the Adhishthanam, even though it is it's a thing which doesn't have a permanent or a determinable reality. So just as the imagined snake acts as the indicator, upalakshana, to point out the actual garland, which is the adhishthanam, the transient world, ephemeral world, it just appears to you and you use that, acts as a pointer to the permanent absolute reality that sustains it. Okay, that is the Tadastha Lakshanam. What about the Satyam Nanamanantam Brahma? He said that also cannot be a Lakshanam, cannot serve as a Lakshanam. Then answer is Bhinnarthanamapi. What was how did he establish his objection? They have different meanings. Satyam is one meaning, Jnanam one meaning, Anantam is another meaning. Bhinnarthanamapi Pitru Sutta Bhratru Jamatradi Shabdanam Eka Devadatta Paryavasayitve Tatha Na Virodha. It is like you use different words, Pinnarthana. Words have different meaning. Say father, son, Bhratru, brother, Jamatru, Sanlilla. Iti various words are used, but they all culminate where Devadatta. All these words are referring only to Devadatta. Similarly here, Eka Devadatta Paryavasayitve, Tata, in the same manner, Loke Siddha Bhinnartha Vachi Satyadi Sabdhanam Akhanda Brahma Paryavasayitve Swarupa Lakshana Siddhihi. The same way, Satyam, Nanam, Anantam, yes, they have distinctly different meanings in the worldly parlance, but they function. How? Through Bhagatyaga Lakshana. When you say Devadatta, from one standpoint, is the father, with reference to his son. But with reference to his father, he is a Suta, he is a son. With reference to Yangadatta, he is a brother. With reference to someone else, Janaka, he is a Jamatru. So different names, different thing. But in all the same, say Devadatta. So the relationship, the roles are, you give up those roles, Bhagatyaga, but Devadatta is the same person. Keep Devadatta, eliminate the roles, discard the roles, then only one Devadatta by different names. So by Bhagatyaga Lakshanaya, it can uniquely point out Devadatta. Similarly, Satyam, Nanam, Anantam, all might have different meanings. By Bhagatyaga Lakshanaya, by dropping their Vachyartha and looking at what they are actually implying to point to, so they can in fact uniquely point towards Akandam Brahma. Iti Ubhayamapi Upapannam. So both Lakshanas, both statements, Yato Vaimani Jayante for Tatastha Lakshana, Satyam Nanam Anantam Brahma for Swarupa Lakshana, both are completely logical.
அங்க ஒரு மீனிங் பரியவசாயித்வே அப்படின்னா அதுக்கு என்ன
It
மீனிங்?
culminates in.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Where does the word end? Where is the avasanam? The avasanam is in Devadatta. Similarly, where is the Satyam, Nanam, Anantam, three words? Where will they end? Where is the culmination of those words? Only in Brahman.
Brahman, okay.
Like that. So I will now give an etymology of the word. Now we are going to discuss Tatastha in this particular sutra. So what is this Tatastham means? Then you will be very looking at just etymologically this word itself is so revealing that itself you will gain a lot of insights how the whole subject matter is discussed. Okay. So Tatastham, it is a Namumsakalinga. Tasya Swarupam Yatha Tat Bhinnatve Sati Tat Bhotakatvam. It is Bhinnatve Sati. It is not inherent in what it is pointing to. Yet it reveals the object. Bhinnatve Sati Tat Bhotakatvam. Tatacha Swarupam Tatastham iti dvidha lakshanam syat. Two lakshanas. Swarupasya bhotah yatah lakshanabhyam swarupe pravishtat swarupe apravishtat yatha kakavanto grihaha iti Vedanta Karika. The Vedanta Karika gives this definition. Two types of lakshanam, swarupam tatastham iti. Both swarupasya bhotah yatah lakshanabhyam. From these two lakshanas, swarupa is revealed. The thing that you want to know is revealed. The reality of something you want to know is revealed by both swarupa lakshanam as well as by tatastha lakshanam. But swarupe pravishtat, swarupe apravishtat, the lakshma, what it is defining, can be in the swarupa, inheres in the swarupa that it is revealing, or it can be outside of the swarupa, swarupe apravishtat. An example for the later, Kakavantaha grihaha, this house with a crow on it. There is a crow sitting on the house, so you go going to the street looking for Shankara's house. You don't know, every house looks very similar. You ask where is Shankara's house. The fellow points out, you see there is a crow on the roof, that is the Shankara's house. The crow may fly away. Later when you come back again, it may not have the crow, But still you already have identified, you know which house is Shankara's house. At that time, it is an indicator. Although it doesn't inhere in the house, it's not part of the house. Still it helps to distinguish from all the other houses, saying this is Shankara's house. So this is the standard example. Then what is a definition for Swarupa Lakshanam? Avakasha Pradatrutvam Akasasya Swarupa Lakshanam is a standard example. It should, again, the Lakshanam should Sarvebhyah Anyebhyah Vyavartakam. It should distinguish it from everything else. You have Panchabhutas, Akasha, Vayu, Agnihi, Ityadi. Then give me a definition of Akasha. That definition should distinguish it from everything, from all the other bhutas. And Akasha, there is no Vijati, etc. I mean, there is no Sajati, etc. So, Avakasha Pradatru, that which accommodates. Akasha is that which accommodates. And that definition is the Swarupa Lakshanam. It is non-negotiable. It defines what it is. Okay, so Swarupa Lakshanam and Tatastha Lakshanam. Now look at the Tatastha. Tate Tishtati iti. From the Stha Dhatu, the Ka Pratyaya, Tatastite. It can be also used in all the three lingas. A meaning in the Naishada Kavyam, the meaning that is given there is Udasinaha, very important definition. Udasinaha means indifferent. And another author called Balaha, he defines is Samipastaha, Tatastha, Samipastaha, close to. Tatastha syat udasine dhirastha nikatasthayoho. So the fellow is standing on a river bank. Tate tishtati. He is neither fully in the water nor completely disconnected from the river, because he is standing on the bank of the river. So neither fully in water nor completely disconnected from the river, from the water. Hence acting as an indifferent udasinavatu, a neutral, in udasinaga, indifferent neutral indicator, bystander. So tatastham, the bhavartha of the tatastha is tatastham, means udasinatvam. So there is a prayer, the Sringeri Acharya made a prayer during COVID time. E tatastham ma basha, e Durga, e Durge, do not be indifferent to us. In this difficult times, do not be indifferent to us, help us. There udasina, same meaning. So now take that portion, now you look at this word from two perspectives. One from Brahma perspective, Brahman's neutrality. Brahman is asankaha. So from the perspective of the world, Brahma jagataha rupena na vikriyate. Brahman is nirvikaraha. So therefore jagataha rupena na vikriyate. The Brahman doesn't form doesn't become to form the jagat. No change is possible in Brahman. Tattu udasinam sat kevalam abhasa prakashakam chit prakasham prayachati. Then how is it udasinavat? It just lends its prakasham to that jagat. So jagat also is prakashati. So prakasham prayachati, just lends its prakasham. Udasinavat. Then from the seeker's perspective, that is a changeless observer, jignasoho drishtya, the jignasu looking at the jagat. Jagataha Parivartananam, Jagat, there's so many changes. Avikari drashta, the, the Jignasu is observing the Jagat. The Jagat is undergoing all the changes. Parivartananam, all the activities of the Jagat. How is he able to observe the change? Because he is an avikari drishta. He is a non-changing reference. That is the udasinam. Neutral. He doesn't change, but he is observing all the changes. So it's exactly like you stand on the bank of the river, still connected to the river, but not, I'm sorry, you are not in the river and not completely disconnected from the river. You are just a neutral observer of the river, the flow of the water in the river. Similarly, you observe all the changes in the Jagat. Jignasoho drishtya jagataha parivartananam avikari drishta. So that is the tatastha. So you be a tatastha, be like a udasinaha iti. So that is the meaning of this tatastha word. So with this background, we will now enter into the bhashyam.
Mama, one question. The previous slide. So that tattu udasinam sat kevalam abhasa prakashakam chit prakasham prayachati. So I mean that sat is straightforward. So chit, like, is it? Do we mean that because the life forms are seen, that life forms are also non-different from the
Yeah,
same chit?
abhasha prakashakam. So it is everything in the Jagat is becoming evident. That is abhasha.
Okay.
That abhasha prakasha, who lends that abhasha prakasha, who makes it light up? The chit is lending that his own prakasha for it to reflect on the Jagat.
Okay.
Abhasha prakashakam chit prakasham prayachati. So the chit prakasham is given to the Jagat for it to have abhasa prakasha.
Okay. So basically everything is known because right, that
Yeah, everything is known, everything exists in whose presence, but that itself doesn't change into become that.
okay.
Brahma jagataka rupena na vikriyate. So it is, but the Jagat is observed, is being seen, it appears. So udasinam sat kevalam abhasa prakashakam chit prakasham prayachati. So being itself, being that, it gives the chit prakasha to the Jagat so that the Jagat appears. So without undergoing change, it makes the Jagat appear.
Okay.
Like the garland doesn't undergo any change, but makes the snake appear.
Got it.
So the existence of the snake is the garland's existence. What is the evidence that the snake comes to be known? It's only the evidence, the chit prakasham of the
Right.
garland.
So does the neutral observer, the adhikara drishta, be able to see this? That
He should recognize that something is seen by me as changing is possible only if there is a non-changing reference centered on me.
okay, so somebody, for example, with the Swarupa Drishta, who is in this virtual, who thinks it is a snake, and you know, who is not aware that it's anitya, the whole Jagat is anitya.
Mhm.
So that perspective is different from somebody who is a witness, who is looking at it as a third party, who can see both. I mean, as you said, in the river bank is not part of the river or
Mhm.
the land, but would
Mhm.
the person with that kind of a neutral viewpoint be able to understand that this is um, prakasha that is being lent to the jagat? It is very ephemeral, to borrow your word.
Mhm.
It's very transient there. Can that person see, and is that a good transition point for a person who tries to understand Brahman from
Yes,
virtual to
yes,
being a
yes.
neutral? Yeah,
That's right. Because see, what we are failing to do, this is the most what you call wondrous thing of all the wonders. This is the greatest wonder. That is, you are all the time observing changes outside of the body mind sense complex,
right.
changes with reference to the body mind sense complex. Now, without any thinking, we identified with the change. Without giving credence to the fact, yeah, if I am observing the change, what is the reference which is non changing in order for me to observe the change?
Exactly. So you take one step away from the change.
Exactly. You don't, you stop identifying with the change because you are
Exactly.
the observer of the change.
Right. So from the changing, you go into a observer status,
You
right?
go into the observer status,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
That's right.
So it's like the beautiful verse, right? Tameva bantam anubhati sarvam
That's
tasya
right.
bhasa sarvamidam
Sarvamitam vibhati.
vibhati.
Yeah.
So that's how I can feel this, right? So
That's right. Na tatra suryo bhati. That means surya na bhasayati. That
correct.
is, with the niche you have to understand. That means the sun which is shining, but it
But
cannot
it
shine the
illuminate.
Atma. It
Yeah,
cannot illumine the Brahman. Na
correct. Yeah,
bhasayati.
yeah.
Because it is because of that it is shining.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is the greatest wonder. Of
Beautiful.
all
Yeah.
the wonders, the wonder is how we miss it. That is the wonder. Right? We all study physics. We know Newtonian physics doesn't work, then Einstein physics, the relative thing, and this, it's not absolute. Even after knowing that, how do we miss this? Right? We know space time are not absolute. And we know we can quote Einstein. Oh, Einstein pointed out it's relative. But how can we miss that if it's relative, there has to be a non changing reference? How did we miss it?
Yeah, it's a very hard transition, right? It's from being part of the change to recognizing the change and
That's right.
stepping
But
aside
by
from the change.
all along, yes, it is. But all along, you know. Now
Yeah,
with the modern science, you know. Still, the science is only somewhere it is remaining on the whiteboard.
right.
How did we miss it? That's the most interesting thing. But we miss it anyway. That is why this thing is anirvachaniyam. You can't describe it. There's no way you can describe. That's why did I miss it? I can't answer it. So
That's correct.
therefore, a kashit, a rare person, somehow rare person appears, he doesn't miss it. Kashit, then what do we call him? Dhiraha. He's a courageous person. Courageous means he uses his intellect. because he sees, how is it possible? I am observing the change. That then it should be there should be a non-changing reference centered on me. Otherwise, I can't be observing change. If I'm also changing, there'll be no vikara at all.
Then the qualification, Shatka Sampatti Anantaram, and the Vairagya is even given the greatest weight in this whole thing, Madhye. So, appa varumbodhu he has realized this Dhiraha person we are talking about, he knows the Ihaloka, Kshiyate, all the Punya, Amutra Loka also, it's Kshiyate. He knows it and he is here today.
That's right. The Vairagya is stressed because if you are caught up in the middle of the change, you will not be able to dissociate yourself from the change. So that is why Vairagya is highlighted. Withdraw yourself.
Very true.
Reject the world, reject the heavens, reject everything.
Yeah, Swargadi.
Reject everything, then you have some time to focus on yourself. So the purpose of the Vairagya, this passion, is only to turn your attention towards yourself. Now our attention is outwardly, right? Day in, day out, from morning waking hours to the night, what are we preoccupied with? Only the world. If not the things to happen in this world, then we are also doing things to, earn punya, etc. for the other world.
Yeah, that's right? Vishaya Vairasyam.
That is the Vairasya. So the Vairasyam is not to give you this knowledge. The Vairasyam is so that you turn your attention from things which you are not supposed, which you should not be paying attention to, but pay attention to Antaratma. Hey, yourself, pay attention to yourself.
Yeah, I am fully focused on the fear arising out of that snake by seeing that snake.
Yes.
So I forget that is God.
I never inquire about the snake.
Yeah.
I'm so engrossed in it.
Yeah.
I'm engrossed by the change. I forget, I'm witnessing the change.
Yeah. I mean, not even on the snake, it is the fear that coming out of it.
That fear, everything, all that is the samsara, all the things that come with that mistake.
Yeah.
Sometimes fear, sometimes sobhana adhyasa, then sometimes joy. It's not always fear.
Yeah, that is true. It's like in the case of snakes, fear, and if
Shukti Rajatavati, then it's running after the Shukti, because then it is love, the liking, raga. For the silver. So Shobhanadhyasa, and that is Raga Dvesha, that brings Sukha Dukkha. Then that's a cycle. You are not able to extricate yourself from that.
This also highlights the need for Shastras and the Guru.
Yeah,
right?
yes, because the Guru keeps on pointing.
The Guru is the one who points out using the Shastra that the focus is the Brahman. The focus is the Atma.
That's
right. And I think on the Kathopanishad, like it says, the God had a fault in the design of our body because he points all the Indriyas outside.
That's right.
You have to shut the Indriyas and focus on the inside, and this is Swayam Prakasham.
Yeah, Paranjikani Vyatranatu Swayambhu. Swayambhu, the creator, he has destroyed Vyatranat. He has the design is wrong. Because Paranjikani, the Indriyas are all focused outside. Kani means Indriyani, they are Paran Pashyanti. They are looking at outward.
Yeah, so we shouldn't blame ourselves too much. It's fault of the creator to a certain extent.
You can, transferring the blame doesn't solve the problem.
The reason I wanted to bring it up is that in one of the discussions, Swamiji was asked, in fact, you said somebody has to come and point out, and we are blessed to have Swamiji, because he was asked, do you know the presence of God? Everybody talks about, is there a presence of God? And he says, the fact that you are able to listen to me and you're able to see me is because of the God. That itself proves that God is there. Because you can observe, but you might not know. That conversion of observance to knowledge comes through the presence of consciousness. which is the Atman or the Brahman.
Okay. So now is the Bhashya. Brahma jigyasitavyam iti uktam kim lakshanakam punah tad Brahma iti atha aha Bhagavan Sutrakarah. So in the first sutra, jigyasitavyam Brahma, Brahman has to be inquired. This is stated in the first sutra. When he says it has to be inquired into, natural akanksha is kim lakshanakam. What is the lakshanam of Brahma? Because if you want me to inquire about Brahma, then what are the characteristics of Brahma, defining characteristics of Brahma? So punaha tad Brahma iti atha aha. So therefore, to answer this, Bhagavan Sutrakaraha, the Vyasacharya, to answer this, he states in the second sutra, Janmatyasya iti. So Ratana Prabha and Purnanandiya, as usual, go through these things in great detail. So we will look at the first two lines now, and then we will continue. Pratama Sutrena Sastra Arambam Upapatya Sastram Arambhamanaha Bhashyakaraha Purvottara Adhikaranayoho Sankatim Vaktum Vrittam Kirtayati Brahmeti. So the sentences are very beautifully structured. So those who enjoy the Sanskrit can also pay attention to it. Pratama Sutrena Sastram Upapadhya. It means having established Upapadhya. Upapadhya means establishing, justifying. After justifying, Sastra Arambam Upapadhya. Okay, you have to begin the inquiry, and that was justified. That is the Upapadhya. Sastram Arambhamanaha Bhashyakaraha. Bhashyakara now, with the beginning of the Sastra, Bhashyakaraha Purvottara Adhikaranayoho. So now the Vichara is beginning. Right? So at the actual beginning of the Shastra now. First one is Shastra has to be inquired. Shastra has not begun yet. Now the Shastra, so the second sutra is where the Shastra begins. Okay. Shastra Arambhamanaha, that means at the beginning of the actual exposition of the Shastra, Bhashyakara, what does Bhashyakara does? Purvottara Adhikarana Yoho. So there is first Adhikarana, second Adhikarana. Sankatim Bhaktum, he has to show the Sankati. Vrittam Kirtayati, what has happened so far? What has happened so far? Brahma Jigyasitavyam iti Uktam, that's all. That is the Vrittam. So Brahma iti, Brahma Jigyasitavyam iti Vrittam Kirtayati. Why, sir? Purvottara Adhikaranayoho Sankatim, for doing Sankati, creating the Sankati, he is doing this. Shastrakara begins. First stating what went on so far. Mumukshuna Brahmajnanaya Vedanta Vicharaha Kartavya iti Uktam Purva Sutrena. Mumukshuna Vedanta Vicharaha Kartavya iti Purva Sutrena Uktam. Now Purnanandya has to explain some of these things like Mumukshuna Brahmajnanaya Vedanta Vicharah Kartavya iti Ratnaprabha has written. Mumukshuna Vedanta Vichara Kartavya, not by anybody. Mumukshuna. You have to be a mumukshu. First, you should be wanting this. That means you have a clarity about a choice you have made. It's a choice one has to make. So that mumukshu word has to be explained. So Purnanandya begins with a prayer. For the second sutra, Purnanandya Stika, he begins first with a prayer. Prasiddhasrudhibhirvedyam vicharyam cha mumukshuna. So he repeats that word mumukshuna. Pratyakrupamaham mande Shri Krishnam Rukmini Priyam. So just a prayer. I bow down to Sri Krishna, the beloved of Rukmini. Rukmini Priyam Sri Krishnam Aham Mande. Who is this Krishna? Pratyak Rupam. So Pratyak Rupam, Sri Krishnam, Rukmini Priyam Aham Mande. He is the Ishvara. Atma Ishvara. How do you know? Prasiddha Shrutibihi Vedyam. Prasiddha Shruti. Prasiddha Shruti is the Upanishads. Prasiddha Shrutibihi Vedyam. He is known through the celebrated Upanishadic text. Just by studying the Upanishad will he know? No. Vicharyam cha mukshana. It has to be inquired. You have to, just not by simply studying the Upanishad has to be inquired. Inquired by who? Mumukshuna. By the seeker of moksha or seeker of liberation. So not just studying vicharya. Vicharam has to be done. Inquiry is a very critical inquiry using the pramana and logic, which is Shruti Anukula logic, and one's own assimilation, which we say one's own anubhava, one has to understand. That is how the Pratyak Rupam has to be inquired. So mumukshuna, so every word is now going to be as we have seen before. So we will continue in the next class, next Saturday. Om Purnamada Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat Brahmarpanamastu.